The big question, though, remains what we're going to do about this immigration order. We're joined by Professor Allan Saxe of the University of Texas, Arlington. He's a political science professor. And Professor Saxe, how are you, sir?
Fine, thank you.
Hey,
I appreciate it very much.
Absolutely. Thrilled to have you on here today. I listened to a lot of talking heads over the weekends who suspect that Donald Trump is going to somehow rewrite this executive order as opposed to staying in court to battle over the old one. What's your take?
I think that's probably a very good course of action for him to take. Even his friends and allies were saying that the first immigration order that he rolled out a week or so ago was a little bit rough around the edges and not very clear. There's a 1952 law that he may cite in a new immigration order. It was passed during the end of President Truman's administration, but it's been used very much since then. It gives very broad authority to the president in the issue of immigration. I heard a constitutional expert yesterday say if the president under that law wanted to ban all redheads from the United States, that the president could do so, and that's probably correct. President Obama, a lot of people might remember, right before he left office, about 48 hours before he left office, he changed the immigration law that had been in place for a long time from Cuba. It used to be that if a Cuban refugee wanted to come to the United States and they touched sand, so to speak, or land, they were given a green card on their way to citizenship. President Obama ended that in the last 48 hours of his administration. No longer is that true. And he likely used that law that I'm citing that gives the president broad authority on immigration. President Trump ought to do the same thing.
Yeah, I've heard reference to that law before. There's a lot of talk about the Establishment Clause, and I don't want to get too deep into the legal explanation here, but it strikes me that it's as simple as rewording that executive order to say, listen, if you've had a green card or a visa that's already been approved, you're not included by this. But if you're somebody who's never been in the United States again and you're trying to gain access, you're the one affected by this from these 7 countries. Is that all it's going to take to clear this up?
It could. I think you cited very, very, very clearly. But that Establishment Clause in the First Amendment of the United States Constitution, I don't know where it applies on the issue of immigration. I think some people in there want to make sure that religion is not used, are using that Establishment Clause. I think it's a very, very far reach. There's nothing in the Constitution that says anything about religion except where it says there should be no religious test for public office. That's all it says. No way does it relate to immigration. No way is there anything else about religion except that First Amendment. But I think it'd be a very wide cloth to throw over immigration to use that establishment of religion along with it. I think the president can move very clearly and very strongly based on that 1952 law. By the way, religion has been used in our immigration in different ways. Many people who come to this country cite religious persecution as a reason for their asylum or refugee status, and we allow that. So religion has been used for immigration, not in the way that the critics of Mr. Trump, of President Trump, try to imply.
Professor Allan Saxe is our guest right now. Professor, over the course of the last 5 days, there has been, according to the national news media, a crackdown on illegals, and they've been rounding people up, and they've been issuing deportation orders, things like this. As you watch this, is it your perception, as it is mine, that a lot of these things actually were issued under the Obama administration, but they weren't acted on, and now President Trump has come in, signed an executive order, told ICE to go ahead and carry through with these deportations, but Trump is the one who's taken the grief for it?
That's exactly correct. We've had these roundups before. This is not the first time. It's being done under President Trump's administration, so a lot of people blame him. And by the way, what he's doing is simply enforcing the law. But it's created a lot of hysteria in a lot of communities where there are a large number of immigrants. And it should not, as I understand. I think he's simply executing the law. This is the law, and that's what he's doing. It was done under President George W. Bush. It's being done under President Obama, and now under President Trump.
You know, I watched several folks this weekend on the Sunday morning talk shows discuss this protest movement that seems to be taking part across the country. And while I think it's a lot of separate groups that are protesting, a lot of people are trying to draw some parallel to the Tea Party movement of a few years ago and how this groundswell could affect the next election cycle. What do you think about that?
I think there's a huge difference. The Tea Party really was an organic movement that grew up spontaneously in various communities over the country. This has been alleged to be very highly coordinated, paid-for demonstrators. Can't prove it, but there's a lot of allegations that this is very different because all of a sudden on the same day, all these demonstrations begin to erupt. And like on the issue about the inauguration, some like 50 different communities had various demonstrations. The same thing about immigration and other issues with President Trump. So I think it's difficult to draw a comparison, although some people want to do that, between the Tea Party, that I think really was a very legitimate uprising, not an uprising, but a grassroots movement at different places. This one seems to be much more organized, not as spontaneous, although it looks that way, much more organized and much more efficient than the Tea Party.
Yeah, it certainly sounds like it. Professor Allan Saxe from the University of Texas at Arlington, I appreciate your time today.
Thank you. It's always appreciated, sir.
This is the Mark Cox Show. Air Comfort Service Heating and Cooling. Weather with Dave Murray.
Sunshine going to increasing clouds on this Monday, especially mid to late afternoon. 52 for the high. Tonight, mostly cloudy skies. Nothing more than a sprinkle, and that will be hard to find. 38 Tuesday, partly sunny, 55. I think Wednesday's probably the coolest day of the week with temperatures in the 40s, but here we go again. Warmer temperatures Thursday, Friday, and over the weekend. I'm Fox 2 meteorologist Dave Murray for FM News Talk 97.1.
It's Monday. You know what that means. It is Margarita Monday. It's what they like to call it at Espino's Mexican Bar and Grill. That's when they serve you those fishbowl size margaritas. If you're going to stop by out there for lunch or maybe happy hour, hopefully if you stop by for lunch, you don't have to go back to work. But I'm just saying, the margaritas are outstanding, and they've got 27 different types of tequila to choose from if you're going by there for happy hour, because you know what I think about that. All right, so Espino's is right down there in the Chesterfield Airport Road, 17409 Chesterfield Airport Road, in fact, just off Highway 40, easy to get to. They've got their, whether it's lunch or dinner, you can look at their menus online, but they've got these freshly prepared, unique dishes. They're tacos de espino. You need to look at that. Soft corn tortilla, the pico de gallo, the lettuce, the choice of meat. It's just outstanding selection. Love their appetizer menu, you name it. And they do catering for as groups as small as 10. So keep that in mind as you're preparing for those graduation parties and everything this spring. Go to their website. You can find the menu. You can find their hours. You can find their location. All that good stuff at Espino.